When the news broke, it felt like the entire city held its breath for a moment. Suddenly, a seasoned veteran, a true locker room leader, a player with years of respect and presence in this league, was back on the market. And that's when the question started spreading across Philly, jumping from neighborhood to neighborhood like a spark on a dry rooftop. Is this the moment the Eagles make the kind of move nobody expected, but everyone would understand? Because let's be honest, when a player with that kind of stature, voice, and history becomes available, especially after making it clear he wants to go all in for one final NFL season, you pay attention. And in Philadelphia, attention becomes expectation. Expectation becomes debate. And debate? Oh, debate turns into a full-on eruption across the fan base. So buckle up, because we're just getting started. And before we go any further, make sure to drop a like on the video, because today we're going all in. And as weird as it sounds, you could see this coming from miles away. Slay was a healthy scratch against Buffalo, a clear sign something was breaking behind the scenes in Pittsburgh. His stock had fallen, and not because he suddenly forgot how to cover. It was the fit, plain and simple. The Steelers wanted heavy man coverage, physical outside tackling, constant one-on-one responsibility. That's not Slay's game anymore, and honestly, it hasn't been for a couple years. He's always been a zone-leaning corner, someone who thrives with vision on the quarterback, someone who turns breaks on the ball into pass breakups and interceptions. Fangio knows exactly how to use that. He's done it before. And in Philadelphia last season, Slay offered leadership, stability, and yes, still very real production. Now, the Eagles didn't move on from him back then because he couldn't play. They moved on because of the knee concerns, age, and the price tag attached. $10 million for a veteran corner with durability questions is a tough pill to swallow when you're trying to manage a long roster calendar. But they didn't burn any bridges. In fact, when you look at the current state of the secondary, a reunion doesn't just feel possible, it feels practical. Howie Roseman saw cornerback as a need at the trade deadline. That hasn't changed. Shyheim Alexander stepped away from the team, creating a hole they didn't expect to have to fill. Asami Samuel Jr. being elevated in Pittsburgh didn't help Slay's situation there, but it could be a gift to the Eagles now. And here's what matters most. Philadelphia needs a veteran presence. They need someone who understands Fangio's structure without needing weeks to absorb it. They need depth. They need familiarity. And if Slay is healthy enough to finish his final season with a contender, what contender makes more sense than the one where he earned that captain patch, stabilized a secondary, and played a major role in building the Super Bowl winning defense just last season? Sure, some fans might roll their eyes and say this looks like some retirement home reunion tour. Brandon Graham was brought back. Now Slay? What's next? Open tryouts for 2017? But that completely misses the point. This is Howie Roseman doing what he always does, aggressively and relentlessly, building the best roster possible. He added Jalen Phillips for pass rush depth. He added Michael Carter. He brought Graham back because he could still help. None of these moves were nostalgic. They were strategic. They were targeted. They made football sense. And if Slay gives you even a fraction of the continuity you had with Slay, James Bradbury, and Reed Blankenship in previous seasons, suddenly the back end of your defense looks far more stable than it did a week ago. Especially because while the Eagles' defense has been struggling against the run, the secondary still needs reliable hands and trustworthy eyes. And if we're being honest, it's hard to ignore how elite Quinyon Mitchell has been. The numbers in the file are outrageous. First in catch rate allowed, second in tight windows forced, third in passer rating allowed, 0 touchdowns surrendered on 467 coverage snaps. He's locking down top-tier receivers every week and doing it with a mix of physicality, speed, and a new swagger we didn't see last season. Pairing that ascending superstar with a veteran who already knows the system, that's the type of move that wins games in December and January. So here we are. Slay is free. The Eagles have a need. The scheme fit is obvious. The leadership is real. The familiarity is there. And the timing? Well, sometimes the NFL has a way of placing a name in your lap at the exact moment you need it most. The real question is this. Should the Eagles bring Darius Slay back for one final run? Or is this a move that sounds better on paper than it would look on the field? What do you, the fans, think about this possibility? When you really step back and look at everything happening inside this roster, the possibility of bringing Slay back isn't just about nostalgia or sentiment. It's about solving problems that have been staring this team in the face for weeks. Because the truth is, the secondary has been running thin on experience. With Andrew Mukuba going down and needing ankle surgery, Sidney Brown was thrown into a larger role than the staff originally planned. And while he's flashed, the reality is clear. The back end needs stability, communication, and someone who's been in these high-pressure December battles before. That's why the decision to open Marcus Epps' practice window mattered so much. He didn't just return as a body, he returned as someone who has already earned the coaching staff's trust, someone who has played meaningful snaps in Fangio's structure, someone who can help patch the holes left behind in a defense that's still trying to settle into itself. But even with Epps returning, the cornerback room needs its own answer. And this is where Slay comes into the conversation with even more weight, because while the roster is filled with young talent, the most important traits for a late-season push don't show up on athletic testing sheets. Communication, anticipation, alignment discipline, and the ability to make in-game adjustments against elite route runners. Slay has those. He had them when he arrived from Detroit. He had them when he earned the C. He had them last season in the Super Bowl run. And the way this defense is currently constructed, young core pieces, an elite CB1 in Quinyon Mitchell, and a scheme that leans heavily on corners making smart reads, the presence of one more veteran who knows exactly what's being asked of him could change everything. Imagine for a moment how different the unit looks with Slay rotating in, playing situational snaps, giving Mitchell the flexibility to travel, and helping stabilize those tense third and medium moments that have burned this team recently. You're not asking Slay to travel with WR1S every snap anymore. You're not asking him to run high man reps down the field. You're asking him to be exactly what he still is, a smart, experienced, zone-leaning corner who can see the game faster than most guys on the field. And the ripple effect that creates? That's where the real value is. Because the defensive line has already been upgraded. Jalen Phillips added a jolt to the pass rush. The pressure rate went up. The pocket collapsed faster. Quarterbacks had less time. Now imagine coupling that improvement in the front with a secondary that suddenly has both youth and wisdom, explosiveness and patience. Suddenly the Eagles look less like a team scrambling to survive week to week, and more like a team rediscovering its identity piece by piece, the same identity that powered last year's elite defense. And while all of this is happening, while the conversation around Slay builds louder and louder, one thing stands above everything else: Quinyon Mitchell's unbelievable rise. It's rare to see a second-year corner dominate the league the way he's doing right now. Leading the NFL in catch rate allowed doesn't happen by accident. Traveling with top receivers and giving up 0 touchdowns doesn't happen by accident. 14 passes defended, some of them in tight windows that would break most corners. That doesn't happen by accident either. You're watching the birth of a superstar. And if you're a front office making decisions for a team that expects to compete deep into the season, you do everything you can to build the perfect ecosystem around a player like that. Which brings us right back to Slay. His presence isn't about turning back the clock. It's about elevating what you already have built. It's about adding a final piece that makes this unit more disciplined, more prepared, and more adaptable. It's about giving a defense that has struggled to stop the run and bend without breaking a voice, a communicator, and a player capable of helping younger teammates settle into their jobs. No panic, no chaos, just experience. So here's where things get real, and this is the part one want to hear from you about. If the door is open and the path is clear, is this the moment the Eagles take a swing that brings Darius Slay back to Philadelphia for one last run? Or do you think this team is better off pushing forward with the current group and letting Mitchell continue to develop without another big name entering the room? Let me know what you think, and if you want more deep dive breakdowns like this, make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button, and stick around. There's more Eagles content on screen for you right now. Picking up right where we left off, the real weight of this decision becomes even clearer when you consider how the past 2 weeks have exposed every soft spot in the Eagles' defense. Back-to-back losses weren't just setbacks, they were warning signs. Missed tackles, misaligned coverages, confusion in motion exchanges, slow adjustments from the secondary, all of it surfaced at the worst time. And when you look at the tape, you see a defense that's dangerously close to cracking under pressure if the right reinforcements don't arrive. That's why, for all the talk about scheme, personnel, and long-term planning, the idea of bringing in a veteran who already knows the structure and understands the expectations begins to feel less like a luxury and more like a necessity. Because let's be honest, this team doesn't have the time or the margin for a slow learning curve. There's no space for a player to take 3 or 4 weeks to get comfortable. The stakes are too high, the schedule too tight, and the rest of the conference too competitive. And this is exactly where Slay's familiarity becomes such a crucial factor. He wouldn't walk in blind. He wouldn't need the entire playbook installed from scratch. He wouldn't need to guess at Fangio's rules, spacing, or leverage dreams. He'd simply plug in, maybe not as the player he was 5 years ago, but certainly as a player who still understands how to diagnose combinations, how to communicate pre-snap, and how to help the younger corners around him anticipate route stems before they even develop. And this is the thing a lot of fans overlook. Leadership isn't just about speeches or being the loudest guy in the locker room. It's about in-game moments. It's about redirecting a safety by half a step, It's about recognizing a split that screams dig route. It's about reminding a rookie where his help is coming from. It's about pulling a teammate aside after a bad rep and showing them what the receiver was trying to set up. Slay has done this for years. It's part of why he wore the C. And a defense that is currently relying on several young, aggressive, but inexperienced pieces could benefit massively from having him back in that room. Meanwhile, Quinyon Mitchell continues to redefine what a young shutdown corner looks like. His production this season isn't just impressive, it's historic. You don't go an entire season without giving up a touchdown while shadowing elite receivers unless you're operating at a rare level. And pairing a player ascending that fast with a veteran who already knows what it's like to play at that level creates a balanced team spend years trying to find. You're giving Mitchell freedom. You're giving the staff flexibility. You're giving the defense a chance to disguise more looks, rotate more confidently, and trust that both corners understand exactly what's being asked of them every snap. And that's the thing. This isn't about rewinding the past. It's about fortifying the present. The Eagles already made moves to upgrade the pass rush. They already addressed depth issues at safety with Marcus Epps returning. They already took swings at shoring up the run defense. But the cornerback room still needs stability, and the timing of Slay hitting the market is the kind of moment competitive teams cannot afford to ignore. So here's the bottom line. If there was ever a move that checked the boxes of familiarity, leadership, scheme fit, cost efficiency, and immediate impact, this is it. Slay may not be the Pro Bowl version of himself anymore, but he doesn't need to be. He just needs to be the final piece that steadies a defense searching for its anchor. Now I want to hear from you. Would you welcome Darius Slay back to Philadelphia for one last run? Or do you think the Eagles should stay committed to the current group and keep pushing forward without adding another veteran voice? Drop your thoughts below. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button, and stick around. There's more Eagles content waiting for you on the screen right now. And as we push this conversation forward, you can feel how layered this moment truly is. Because bringing back Darius Slay isn't really about nostalgia, it's about understanding exactly where this Eagles team stands, right now, in December football, where every detail matters and every weakness becomes a target for opponents who've spent months studying your tendencies. The losses to Dallas and Chicago didn't just expose flaws, they forced the front office and coaching staff to confront what's missing. And what's missing is exactly what Slay used to provide: poise, anticipation, and the ability to calm a secondary that's been forced into chaos far too often. Think back to how last season felt with him in the lineup. Not perfect, not dominant, but steady, reliable. The kind of presence that kept bad plays from turning into disaster plays. That's the gap you feel right now in this defense. There's talent everywhere, that isn't the issue. Mitchell is playing at a flat-out superstar level. Craig James has taken meaningful steps. The front seven is more explosive than it was a month ago. But the glue? The voice that keeps every level tied together? That's where experience matters, and that's where the possibility of a Slay reunion becomes impossible to dismiss. And beyond the field, think about the ripple effect inside that locker room. A veteran walking back into a building where he once wore the C, that means something. It brings instant accountability. Young players listen a little closer. Meetings sharpen. Communication tightens. Every group needs that one voice players gravitate toward when the season gets heavy. Last year, Slay was that voice. This year, the Eagles have been searching for it week after week. But what makes this scenario even more intriguing is how seamlessly Slay fits into what Fangio needs right now. This is a defense that's built on spacing, vision, and trust. It requires corners to read the quarterback as much as the receiver. It requires discipline, patience, and the ability to diagnose route combinations before the break. These are things Slay has done at a high level for a decade. And if there's a place where he can maximize what he still has left physically, it's this system, the same system he already understands, the same system where his decline wouldn't be exposed the way it was in Pittsburgh. And imagine how that impacts Quinyon Mitchell. You're talking about a player who already leads the league in catch rate allowed, who has given up 0 touchdowns, who is shadowing some of the top scorers in football and shutting them out completely. Pairing him with a veteran who has spent his career studying elite receivers only accelerates his growth. It sharpens his footwork. It refines his timing. It elevates the entire room. Because when a young superstar and an aging technician share the field, both learn from each other, and the team benefits in every possible way. But it isn't just about mentorship, it's about competitive edge. When the playoffs get closer, teams isolate your weakest link. They motion to it. They force you into matchups you don't want. They attack the corners who hesitate, even for a second. And the Eagles, as currently constructed, can't afford to roll into January with question marks at one of the most important positions in football. Slay doesn't erase every problem, but he gives you an alternative, a stabilizing presence who can help eliminate the mistakes that have cost this team too many possessions, too many drives, Too many winnable moments. In many ways, bringing Slay back would be a move that signals belief that this roster is still built to win right now, belief that this team isn't done competing, belief that experience still matters in a league obsessed with youth. It's the kind of swing contenders make, not because it looks good, not because it's sentimental, but because it addresses a need with a player who can handle the moment. So now the question shifts from should the Eagles consider it, to something much more direct. Is this the move that turns a shaky defense into a postseason-ready unit, or are the risks still too high for a team trying to build toward another deep run? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Should the Eagles bring back Darius Slay for one final push, or is this the moment to hold firm with the younger group and keep developing from within? And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button, subscribe, and check out the videos on screen for more Eagles content coming your way. And here's the part that really brings this whole conversation into focus. The Eagles aren't operating in a vacuum. Every team in the NFC with playoff ambitions is watching, adjusting, strengthening, fixing weaknesses while there's still time. The 49ers added depth. The Cowboys tweaked their secondary. The Lions improved their defensive front. Everyone is sharpening their tools for the final stretch. And the Eagles, despite the frustration of the last 2 weeks, are still right in the middle of that race. Which means standing still simply isn't an option, not when the margins are this thin. That's what makes the timing of Slay's release feel so significant. You don't often get a chance to add a player who already knows your culture, already understands your scheme, and already earned the respect of your locker room, especially not in December. And you can tell this possibility is hitting the fan base hard because everyone remembers what he meant to this defense. He wasn't just another corner. He was one of the emotional anchors of the secondary. He was a connector, someone who pulled younger players into the film room, someone who wasn't afraid to challenge teammates, someone who could reset the energy of the group when things got shaky. And that's exactly what the Eagles have been missing. This defense hasn't looked united these past couple of weeks. It hasn't looked synchronized. It hasn't looked like the elite, disciplined unit that pushed this team to the top of the league last season. You see misaligned leverage, late rotations, open windows that should have been tightened, and receivers finding space that simply shouldn't be there. Some of that is youth. Some of it is new faces trying to fit into a system that demands high-level communication. Some of it is the injuries piling up in the worst spots. But all of it adds up to a defense that needs a presence, not just a body, not just a jersey number, but a presence. And let's be clear, adding Slay wouldn't take away from what's happening with Quinyon Mitchell. If anything, it enhances it. Mitchell has been nothing short of extraordinary. The file shows numbers you almost never see from a second-year corner: first in catch rate allowed, second in tight windows forced, 0 touchdowns, 14 passes defended, shutting down top-tier receivers week after week. That doesn't just happen. That's preparation, film study, instincts, discipline, and raw talent wrapped into one player who is ascending fast.